Hey there. This here, Year Trek. Today we are, or at least for this episode, this stream, we are going to talk about Lower Decks, episode 6. Did you watch it? I thought it was okay. Actually, I thought it was a really fun episode. I actually enjoyed this. It was one of those things where it's like the last couple episodes, the last few episodes were kind of blah. Like last week's episode was good. We had like some closure on some story arcs, and that was good. So it was almost like, okay, refreshing into something new, and I think we got that. This was a fun episode. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it, because there are spoilers ahead. We are going to be talking about the episode, all the little things, and which there wasn't a lot of little things, but we're going to talk about them. And then once you watch it, come back, watch this, let us know if you agree. There we go. Okay, you have been warned. Rob, how you doing? Thank you for joining me today. I know Rob kind of enjoyed this episode too, because he messaged me. In fact, I didn't get to watch this episode last night. I was exhausted from the day before, but I did watch it this morning. Actually, of course, I watched it twice. The first time I watched it, I watched the regular Star Trek because I've seen them so many times. I just sit there with my iPad and I just start jotting. And so I was kind of in that mode. I'm like, no. I have to watch the episode and enjoy the episode. And then I'll go back through and watch it again and then kind of nitpick or, pull stuff out here and there. So Lower Decks, season 2, episode 6. This is the Spy Humongous, which is, I think, a play on words of the Spy Humongous. In this story, there are 3 plot lines that are going on. You have the Captain Freeman plot line, and so her whole goal is to negotiate with the Packlids, because they want to negotiate for a peace treaty. And then there's Mariner, Rutherford, and Tindy, who get garbage duty. And then you have Boimler, who's hanging out with the red shirts. And I thought that was kind of funny. Now this episode was written by John Cochran. And if you know who that is, that's great. If you don't, John Cochran is the winner of Survivor, or one of the many winners of Survivor. And I think 2-time player, 1-time winner. Anyway, so he writes for Lower Decks. And another thing, Survivor starts on the 22nd. So I know what I will be doing on Wednesdays on the 22nd. So, all right. So let's just go through this per plot line. So with the whole Captain Freeman thing, I think it's kind of funny because Captain Freeman, she's looking forward to these negotiation processes because that kind of puts her into a higher level than just second contact or just doing stupid stuff. So, oh shoot, his name escapes me. I loved how the Packlet said they didn't have a big enough helmet to make a decision, and the next guy literally had a larger helmet. Yes, I thought that was funny. And especially, and I have this down here, because you end up getting the queen, and then you get the king, and then you get the emperor. So, and of course, and I even wrote in a little notes, the helmets get bigger and bigger and bigger. Shax, that's who it is. So she beams down to the planet with Shax. Right before he's like, he says, you get more of these Picard level negotiations, you'll end up with an Enterprise. And she's just like, look, yeah, I don't need that. I just need to be doing something more. So, and of course, the Packlet, you'd never guess what the Packlid planet is named. It's named Packlet Planet. that's how stupid this race is. And I find it funny how they've chosen this race to be like the main bad guy, because they're so dumb. And I know that I think, if I remember correctly, that episode from The Next Generation got crap because they thought that they were basically playing on people who were mentally retarded or mentally delayed. I'm sorry if I offended anybody by my eldish terms, but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it is the ultimate not so inside joke. But yeah, so there's now, of course, while they're doing these negotiations, what was it? Did I write down his name? I didn't write down his name, but there's an escaped prisoner that escapes to the Cerritos, so and who is also Pakled, which the commander, Ransom, and the new guy. He's the one that speaks in terms. I can't remember. Kayshawn. Maybe that's his name. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so they figure out really quickly that this is not. Yeah, Kayshawn. Yeah, Kayshawn. They figure out really quickly that this guy is not really wanting asylum. That he's a spy, and he's really, really bad at it. And I just thought that played really funny into it. And he says, "I want to see how your shields work." I thought that was pretty funny. Of course, while Captain Freeman is down on the planet, they refer to her as Captain Janeway, and she's like, "No, I'm Captain Freeman." And then, of course, and then back on the ship, you've got, of course, they've caught on, so they show him the top secret Starfleet gift shop, and then, of course, the rest of the episode, he's wearing this USS Cerritos T-shirt, which I thought was pretty good. Let's see, and then let's see. Well, I didn't. In my head, I'm bumping around between timelines. So as this is going on, of course, she's like, Rumbar, yes, okay, and I want a Cerritos shirt too. So you've got so anyway, so when the queen comes out and says, "Oh, I don't have a big enough helmet to make those decisions," and then the king steps out and the emperor steps out, and then people jump through the window and revolution, and then the guy kills the emperor. We don't really see the king or the queen get killed, but I assume that they did. And these are, of course, are other Pakled. And the Pakled guy lifts the helmet above his head, and he says, "The big helmet Pakleds will no longer control us." And he looks it up, and he's like, "Oh," and he puts it on, and he goes, "Behold my big helmet." And then everyone's like, "Oh, he is so strong." Yeah, it kills me. It kills me. So, and then of course the Pakled spy, they figure out that because after after the whole gift shop thing, the Pakled spy disappears because of course they turn their back to him. They're trying to find him on the ship, can't find him anywhere. Finally, they see him floating in space, and then when they bring him back to life, and the doctor's like, "I don't know how it happened, but I don't know how he survived it, but he did." And he goes, "I am strong." They ask him how he ended up outside. And he goes, "Oh, I went to the bathroom and I hit the button and I got sucked outside." And he goes, "Are you sure that wasn't an airlock?" So I thought that was pretty funny. And then of course, they say, "Okay, get him out of here." So he goes back down to the planet, and he's like, "Ha I was really a spy. I tricked you." And of course, Freeman is like, "Okay, well, if you're so good of a spy, tell me tell me, what the thing was. And he goes, oh yeah, yeah. And before he does that, yes, the Enterprise has really big bathrooms. So of course he even got the ship wrong, which I thought, yeah, that was pretty funny. And then what does she say? Oh, of course. And then he gives up the whole. He says, and then gives up the whole thing where they were trying to get what is it? What a Viridian bomb, smuggle it onto Earth. And she's like, oh, okay, good. And then she gets away, and they're like, oh, he beat Captain Janeway. So yeah, I thought that was. So that was kind of that plot line. So you had that going on, and then the plot line the plot lines do kind of intertwist. So I'll end up getting to that. So the whole trash day, which is considered what anomaly consolidation duty. So ACD for short. You've got our three main characters. Well, actually four. We'll start out with the four main characters. You've got Boimler and Mariner and Rutherford and Tindy. So they all get ACD duty, and everyone's really kind of excited except for Mariner, and she's just like, no, this is just trash. This is just garbage duty. This is so now Boimler gets out of it because he ends up brown nosing with the red shirts to get out of trash day, which Mariner's like, that was such a great call. Like, she doesn't even get mad at it. She's just like, what a great call. And then he kind of starts on his little thing. As they go around to the rooms, I wrote some, not a lot of stuff stuff popped out to me, but in Ransom Room, they got rid of some stuff, but one of them was like, I think it was a frog skull, and they drop the thing, and then it evaporates, and then Rutherford breathes it in, and then he expands, and he gets really, really big. And he says something as he's expanding, but I couldn't figure out exactly what it was, because I was like, okay, well, is this like some secret thing, or like, some reference that he's making? But I couldn't make it out. I replayed it several times. And then as they, it kind of shows scenes as they go from these different rooms. Everything is happening to Mariner, which I think is so funny. Okay, hold on. So the main crew made up the Star Trek version of AC/DC. Okay. Well, when I said ACD, that, of course, it sounds like AC/DC, but yes, that's, I hadn't really, I had thought of AC/DC, but I hadn't put the C on the end to actually make it full. That's a good one, Rob. I like that one. I like that. But yeah, yeah, totally dad joke for the win. But everything is happening in Mariner. So they show a scene where they're cleaning up, and Mariner gets flower spikes to the face. Now, I instantly thought of Apple, the episode The Apple, and then and even though, because they did have flowers, it shot spikes, but people died of that in the original series. Now, also I thought of This Side of Paradise, which also had a flower that spewed, but it didn't spew spikes. It just spewed confetti, and then that, so I thought that was kind of a callback to that. Mariner gets electrocuted by one of these things, and I made a note. So when I did the freeze frame, of course I didn't do the freeze frame to catch something, but I did the freeze frame to just pause so I could write. I noticed in the background, if you look at the screen on the left-hand side, there's this little machine, and it's like these two gray modules, and then it's got this red light beam that's kind of on it. Now, it didn't flicker, but it totally reminded me, and you have to watch, like, I think it was in Airplane 2, It was in Star Trek 2. It was what was it? It was in a couple other science fiction, not Star Trek related. And my wife is texting me. Hold on really quick. What do I think? She's sending me a picture of something. The picture hasn't gotten here. Oh. Hold on. Yes. There we go. Okay. So anyway, so it's in Star Trek 2 on Regular 1, and it's just this thing that just the lights are just flashing. They just flash. And they've been in, and like I said, they've been in some other science fiction, not Star Trek related movies. Why I mentioned Airplane 2 because Shatner was in Airplane 2, and there's this scene, and it's been like forever since I've seen this scene, but I remember it because he walks up to the same unit, and like the lights are flashing, and he goes, "What is this? What does this do?" Because I'm sure people are asking, "What the hell does that thing do?" It's just like a prop in the background with flashy lights, and so there's and the guy's like, "I don't know. It's just I can't remember." And well-known comedian, but he's in the scene with him, and he goes, "I don't know, sir. It just flashes on and off, on and off." I think that's the only thing. So when I saw this thing in the background, I don't know if that was there for that purpose because the lights were not they weren't flashing, or the little red beam, it wasn't flashing, but I was like, that totally reminded me of that unit in the background. So the next time you just watch some science fiction thing in a lab, there will be this little unit that makes its way around different sets. It's just got flashy lights. Let's see. Mariner gets electrocuted. Mariner gets trapped on the ceiling in purple goo. Thought that was pretty nice. And then, of course, where the two kind of storylines between Boimler and Trash Day go along, Boimler knocks over one of the containers, and it had nanobots in it. And of course, they try and clean up the nanobots. And of course, Mariner gets it all over her hand, and she's like, "It's eating my my fingerprints." But there was a line in there, and Rutherford says it. He says, "Oh, somebody can't. They play with nanobots, and they can't keep the lid on tight." This, I think, is a callback to the Next Generation episode where Wesley was working on nanobites and he fell asleep, and he had the little petri dish, and the nanobites either the nanobites got, I think it was actually, shoot, am I remembering this correctly? I remember a petri dish, but maybe it was. He had a container that he kept the nanobots in, but he didn't close it because he fell asleep during his experiment. And then, of course, the nanobites got out and took over the ship. So finally, Mariner's just like, I'm tired of this, because they'd been complaining the entire time. And Tindy was just trying to find something positive, okay? So she's finally like, Tindy's like, fine, I will do it. I will do it all. And Rutherford and Mariner are like, great. And so they sit down. So then they go into, and I can't remember whose cabin it was, but then she finds this. She finds some goggles that look like they're I can't remember the cyberpunk type of goggles. And then you've got then she picks up this sword that's broken. The sword to me looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out where it looked from, or where it came from. It kind of had a oh, okay. Oh, is that the room, the psychiatrist bird? Okay. Let's see. So but anyway, the sword looked familiar. I was like, I wasn't sure, but it did. I almost got like Thundercats type of sword. Legend of Zelda. Okay. So Rob reminded me of Legend of Zelda sword. So I don't play Legend of Zelda. My daughter does. Don't know if it really looked like the Master Sword. It didn't have that coloring, but I don't know. It had a familiar ring to it. And then of course she also she picked up this book, and it was basically a hollow book where the characters come to life and started trashing the place. So then she starts getting irritated, and she ended up getting let's see. Oh no! It doesn't. She comes out. She runs out. The pigs, I think, run out. She knocks over this thing. It ends up being a slug that ends up growing and then eating her. And then was it Mariner's like, don't get digested, while they try and find like a hypo to do it. And then of course she gets pooped out, which I thought that was humorous. I thought it was kind of funny. And then of course she acts like it's, she's like, oh, don't touch me, like it's a super traumatic thing. The hollow book a callback to something? Yeah, it didn't ring any bells with me. So I don't know. It could be. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to look into it. It was the Three Little Pigs. When it comes to like a hollow book, wait a minute. Ooh. DS9. No, wrong series. Completely wrong series. Not DS9. Eureka. It's like season 3. It was like a Christmas thing where the book, they got the little girl a book because I can't remember the characters' names, but you had the sheriff and the hot chick, the hot black chick, and then her younger daughter. She gets this hollow book, and then like it completely changes because of whatever radiation thing that goes on in Eureka, changes everything. So yes, if it's a callback, it's a callback to that. At least that's the closest thing I can think of. So yes, Rob agrees. Yes. Let's see. Now, okay. So after she gets pooped out, of course, Tindy just starts going off. She starts getting really irritated, and she's holding this cube, and we find out the name of the cube. Did I write it down? I wrote it down on Boimler's thing. So, but she's holding this cube, and she starts to get irritated, more irritated, no more irritated. But as she's doing that, and I love this line. I'm going to start using this line. Mariner's like, whoa, slow to impulse. Like, chill out. I love that. I was like, that is such the coolest line. So I'm going to totally have to start using that. Whoa, slow your impulse. Or slow to impulse. And of course, they find out that Tindy was the one that signed them up because she thought it would be an adventure. They always complained about not going on adventures, and all they did was just complain about doing this job. And then what is it? And then of course she turns into this scorpion, and then starts wreaking havoc all over the place. So and then this is kind of where she ends up going into what is it? Into the basically their version of 10 Forward, into the food area, and that's kind of where another blending of where Boimler's storyline and their storyline kind of meet up. So at that point, let's go over to Boimler's storyline, and then we can kind of continue on from there. So Boimler gets out of doing trash duty by hooking up with what they call the red shirts. And of course, it's the next generation time frame. Red shirts are command. Okay. The whole joke behind that is, of course, the red shirts are of the original generation are always the ones to die, which I have a theory about that, and I'll get to that in a moment. Because I think the trope is wrong, but we're only about 18 episodes in. But I'll anyway. But they call themselves the Red Shirts because it makes them feel invincible. And I caught on right to that. Rob had sent me a message earlier that it was like just totally loving that joke because Red Shirts die. They're not invincible. The main dude, I didn't write down his name, but they do give him a name. We'll just call him Twat, just because or Douche. Let's just call him Douche because he kind of acts like a douche. But the blue Andorian, well, all Andorians are blue. Most Andorians are blue. But the Andorian chick, I think that's Jennifer from episode 1 of the second season, where what's her name? Mariner is in the thing. It's in Douche. Where Mariner is right at the beginning, where Mariner is in her holodeck program, and she interrupts it. And he goes, "What do you want, Jennifer?" So yeah. Anyway, so Jennifer's part of it, and then they have this other kind of crap cat-like creature, and then the Douche, and then another character. So there's 4 of them, that Boimler meets up with. And of course, they really want him part of the group because he served with Riker. Riker's the man. So they're like, hey, that gives you, we lost somebody because they got promoted. So now you can be part of our group. So as they're walking, they're talking about there was a talk about the Ensign Douche asks, how much did Riker clean his trombone? And Boimler was like, way too much. Something like, it's sometimes even interfered with the missions. And I love the way he says this. I need to learn to blow something brass. And I was like, wow, you could take that so many different ways. So, and of course, they're trying to get Boimler, really trying to push him up and promote, and be like, hey, you need to be a leader. You need to look like a leader. And so, they insert muscle foam stuff into his uniform, and they comb his hair, and he ends up looking like a little Riker. Yeah, I think that was the point of the one. Yeah. Actually, when it came to, I think I need to learn to blow something brass, the first thing I thought about was brass balls. So it's kind of where my mind is. Boimler's captain's speech with the background change felt like something solid foreshadowing with his haircut, making him look like he had great. Yeah, totally. Like it looked like he was a little Riker, and but I think so. I actually I liked that. Like it was, even though this group is made to look like a bunch of dipshits, even starting out with the name, I think them really trying to push Boimler, because he has high aspirations. He wants to captain a ship someday. So really kind of pushing him. It's like, yeah, you got to look like a leader and talk like a leader. And so I think that was really good. I thought that when they, all of a sudden he was channeling Riker, and even though they had the wrong premise to it, like, and they come to that conclusion, or at least Boimler comes to that conclusion towards the end of their plot line. But I think that was good because he really, like, you saw super potential in Boimler in that moment. Let's see. Yeah, inspiring speech. I think that is a leader. I wrote notes. Inspiring speeches is a leader trope. Yeah, because you always get those leaders who go in and they just talk and chat, and they inspire their crew, but they don't do anything. So I've got to plug in my laptop here. So, but they don't do anything. Like they don't actually get involved. They just give speeches. And the funny thing is I know people in real life that are like that. They're all talk, no action. Of course, now as we blend with the trash duty storyline, what is it? Oh shoot. We've got Tindy as the big green, whatever it's called, and Boimler's like, oh, what was she? What happened? She says, oh well, she was holding this cube, and he says, oh, it was an Ataxian, and I could be pronouncing this wrong, Ataxian mood shifter, and so he's like, I know exactly what to do, and so he kind of springs into action while all the other ones are like, oh, they start giving a speech. And the first one that stands up to start giving a speech, you can just see the eyes on the, like, oh, I'm inspired. And then the second one steps up and they're like, what? And then the third one steps up, or Ensign Douche steps up, and everyone's just like they're just looking really, really confused. So I thought that was funny. But anyway, so Boimler kind of springs into action and starts throwing food on him, which is, if we go back to the beginning of the storyline, as he's getting up from the booth, he slips and falls and gets food on him, and Tindy is just laughing because she thought it was so funny. So he's like, okay, if I do this, it's going to make her laugh. And so that was, and he ends up throwing food on him and on himself, and ends up making Tindy laugh and saves the day. Oh yeah, and of course they are all talking over each other too. So it wasn't even like letting them take turns. They were all talking at the same time, saying different things. So really, and then of course, like I said, they all like Boimler kind of comes to that conclusion. You have to be your own captain. You guys are trying to, be captains. You're trying to be other captains, to be that leadership. And he says, but do you think Riker did that? No, Riker was his own man. And he didn't say those words, but he totally insinuated. Riker, be your own captain. And so, and then he's like, oh, the Ensign Douche is like, oh, okay, well, if that works for you, but I really don't think that everyone's going to go along with it. But everyone's just like, no, actually, he's kind of right. I kind of don't really want to be a red shirt anymore. And so of course, Ransom comes down, because part of what was going on was there's going to be this acting captain duty that they're going to try for. So Ransom ends up getting off the turbo lift, and Ensign Douche goes over and he goes, oh, I nominate myself to be acting captain. And Ransom's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, he totally blows him off, and I thought that was so cool. And then of course, walking past Boimler, he's like, what is it? He totally gives props to him. He goes, yeah, he says, you thought quickly and you did this, or, whatever he said. And he goes, now that's showing leadership, which I liked the, totally blowing off the guy who thinks he's a leader, to really show that in reality, what Boimler did was true leadership. And hold on a second. My phone's blowing up. And then let's see. Okay, and then comes, sorry. Oh yeah. Don't forget. Boimler gets asked out by the black-haired ensign because of how he stood up to Ensign Douche. Yes, yeah. I did. Did they give her a name? Have we met her before? I can't remember. I don't know, because I don't think, because that's not the same one that Rutherford was all hot after. Hold on a second. in the middle of a podcast. Let's see. What is okay? Oh yeah. Okay. No, they didn't. Okay. No, they didn't. Sorry for Buddy is texting me. Anyway, so I just need to turn off my phone. Let's see. She gave the what captains our speech, but no name, not Rutherford's girlfriend. Yeah, I can't remember her name before. I have it in my notes somewhere. I actually did make a sheet of character names, so I wouldn't forget. But of course, I forget her name because we've only seen her like twice. Anyway, so they're on the bridge, and Ransom is like, or the captain comes out and it's like, oh, I talked to Starfleet Command and let him know what was going on, and then and so they said that about the Pakled, because we're going back to the whole Pakled thing of them doing the bomb thing, and then and so she's like, okay, we got props on that, and then and so they're leaving, and she said, and Ransom's like, okay, now acting captain, you have the bridge, and Ensign Douche is like, oh, cool, and so he sits, the chair highlights and he sits down, and like a nanosecond later he goes, new shift on deck, out of my chair. And that was Shax. And so he goes, oh, yeah, yes, sir. And so then Shax is like, go down to airlock 17. The Pakled did something really nasty down there and go clean it up. So of course, in the end, he gets his just desserts. I thought that was pretty funny. And then of course the episode ends. I thought this episode was really fun. I just, like I was saying, it was good. It was, good, lighthearted, not a lot of Easter eggs, but it was just a fun story. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the episode. So there you go. Oh, I can't forget about the casting stone. You are so right. And you know why I forgot? Because it's not at the end of my notes. It's at the beginning. It's at the beginning. Okay. So the casting stone. So like, yeah, at the very, very end, the four of them are talking, and they're like, oh, and this happened and that happened, and Mariner's like, ooh, but I have the casting stone, and it's like, oh, what does that do? Well, that lets you project your voice anywhere you want. And so it's funny. Tindy is like, oh, like we could prank call Armus, and it's like, Armus. It's like, that's so cool, And this Armus, of course, Next Generation. He's the dipshit that killed Tasha Yar. So of course it goes to that planet, and he's sitting on a rock, and they're all like, Armus, hey, look at this, and he goes, and he says, who is that? Wait, I am Armus. I am the skin of evil, which is the name of the episode that Tasha Yar died in. And then you hear Mariner goes, yeah, more like a puddle of shit. Yeah. So that was pretty good. I like that little throwaway, or throw thing in at the end. So I totally would have forgotten to mention that. Thank you, Rob. See, that's why Rob chimes in. That's why Rob's here. You have purpose, Rob. Okay, so there you go. There's that. In about 50 minutes, we're going to talk about 4 episodes, because, of course, I wasn't on yesterday because I was doing something, had to do it. No way out of it. So I figured, why not talk about all 4 episodes from the last 2 days? So when we come back at 7 for our regularly daily scheduled podcast, I will do that. And then, so if you can join us then, join us then. If not, that's okay. You can always rewatch. Until then, until then, live long and prosper. And if I don't see you or in, I don't know, what is it, 50 minutes at 7 p.m. Pacific time, then tune in next week or for more Lower Decks, or even tune in tomorrow for more regular Star Trek.